Over 430,000 teachers have been vaccinated against COVID-19, but many have also refused to be inoculated. The Department of Basic Education says it won't pressurize staff into getting the vaccine. Well, let's hear the different views of the teachers' unions. We're joined by SAOU's Kloppers, the National Teachers Union's Cynthia Barnes, and Naptosa's Basil Manuel. Good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for your time. Cynthia, perhaps let me begin with you. There's been a lot been said about, whether it is actually compulsory for teachers to be vaccinated or not, and a lot of different things said about the experience of teachers who are not vaccinated yet. What have your members been reporting to you about the experience that they have at their schools and within their districts?
Good evening, Kathy, and to the viewers at home. For example, let me start with the vaccine itself. For example, the president of the country has mentioned that, or has pronounced that the vaccine is not compulsory. So if we cannot infringe the people's rights of not doing what they feel they should do. For example, our members are telling us that some of them, when they have vaccinated, they become ill, and some of them have passed on, if I may tell you, because we've got a number of them, and some of them got sick maybe for 2 weeks because they were not, nothing was explained to them to say if you have been sick or don't take the vaccine, or if you've been infected with the virus, so you don't have to take the vaccine. Some of them never knew about that, and then they've got sick. But I've got few members that passed on due to COVID-19 just because they've taken the vaccine. But we don't know whether they had the underlying disease or what, but we understand that they really did pass on.
Cynthia, that's quite a strong allegation to make. And I would imagine that even when it comes to those families who could well be within their rights to claim for compensation, they'd need to show a causal link between the vaccines and the causes of these deaths. Have you been able to ascertain that information for you to confidently say that, some of your members died as a result of taking the vaccine?
Actually, I'm saying I don't know whether it was because they were already sick, but they took the vaccine, and maybe after 3 or 4 days they passed on. So that is what I am saying now. And some of them really got sick after that. They had terrible headaches, and some of them were vomiting, couldn't walk. So it's because some of them took the vaccine after they've been sick. That is what they told us, that they didn't, when they went for the vaccine, they did not tell the nurses that they were sick. So therefore they took the vaccine. So it was an impact of the vaccine itself.
Of course, part of the difficulty is that, with information such as this, it will only add to the hesitancy of teachers, especially coming from a leader of a union. Maybe let me bring you in here, Basil, to talk about the experience of your members.
Thank you, Kathy. Naptosa's members have, the vast majority have vaccinated. We have a few people who haven't vaccinated, and the reasons for not vaccinating vary. Some of them were already ill with COVID. Some of them had the flu. Some of them had just recovered, and so they couldn't vaccinate, and those people will be vaccinating. Then, of course, we do have a number that are simply just not interested, either for religious reasons. Alternatively, they are actually anti-vaxxers. Now, we are working on people and trying to convince people, but that is all. We're trying to convince. We are not forcing people to do so. We haven't heard of any adverse effects that people have suffered, and certainly we haven't heard of any people passing on. But our members are deeply concerned by the circular that has come out that is suggesting that they have to produce doctor's certificates because they did not take the vaccine or refused to take it. And we will support those members because we think it's overreach. It is just beyond the pale of responsibility to say to somebody who is at school, happy to continue working, is not asking for a concession, that they must prove medically why they didn't take the vaccine. That is an infringement of their constitutional rights, the right to bodily integrity. And in fact, the next time, I suppose we will ask people to show if they're taking birth control, because it comes to the same thing. It is ridiculous, it is overreach, and it's a badly written circular. And Naptosa cannot stand for that. But we, Kathy, we have had no adverse reports as yet. Today and yesterday, certainly people were being asked. We've had a lot of queries. We are sitting with a large number of queries. Principals wanting to know if they must, and of course from members if they must comply. We are saying if it is an infringement of your rights, your constitutional rights, you don't have to comply.
Basil, you talked about the circular, and that has been receiving quite a lot of criticism. Have we seen it affected at the school level? So have you had members who've been asked to produce these medical certificates or medical files in order to show reason why they're not getting vaccinated?
Kathy, that is the confusion that is out there at the moment. Many of our principals who contacted us, particularly today, were wanting to know, how can I possibly ask this? The people are here. They're happy to be here. Why must they produce a certificate when they are here? Secondly, members who have been asked by some over-enthusiastic principals are saying, I'm not complying. Who's going to pay for my visit to the doctor? I don't have to give a reason. I don't even have to produce a doctor's certificate to show what other illnesses I have, whether I take ARVs or not, as an example. Why now? And to implant in people's minds that the majority of the people will start objecting to somebody not taking a vaccine is indeed a great pity.
Chris, let me give you an opportunity to tell me about the experience that you've had and that of your members on this issue.
We haven't had any negative feedback yet with regard to officials compelling our members to provide proof of their medical conditions or the refusal to be vaccinated. What we have done is we've written a newsletter to them to inform them of their rights. And one of the issues that we've emphasized is the fact that it is not the duty of the principal to act as the employer. If the employer wants to compel people, the employer must send their officials to the school and they must speak to the people. What we will do is we will protect our members. We will not allow them to be victimized or intimidated, because it is a fact that to be vaccinated does not make the workplace safer. There is no medical proof that a person who has been vaccinated is safer in the workplace than a person who has not been vaccinated. And we want to see that particular proof. What we do know is that people who have been vaccinated, if they get ill, they will not become as ill or seriously ill as the other people. But as I've said, we've written a newsletter to our members. We've informed them of their rights, and we've assured them of our support in this particular matter.
Do you think that the circular needs to be either revised or completely withdrawn? Chris?
This particular circular is written in such a fashion. It starts off with let's say, the statement that vaccination is voluntary. But from there on, it continues in the vein to say that they expect you to be vaccinated. And as Basil has said, it is badly written. It creates the impression that people have to be vaccinated, and then if they do not vaccinate themselves, they will be dismissed. And let's just speak about the question of dismissal. It is not that easy. An employer must first prove that there has been reasonable accommodation, that this particular person will indeed be a dangerous risk in the workplace, and they will have to comply with all the processes and procedures that actually are stipulated by the Labour Relations Act. And as I've said, we will advise and we will support our members in this regard.
Cynthia, do you think it should be revised or completely withdrawn?
Exactly, it should be. I think it should be revised, because seriously, you can't force a person to say must go for the vaccination if the person, the medical certificate says the person can't get, as well as based on religious. So those are the things that we are looking into. So this circular seriously doesn't sit well or have a space where we can say this is a circular that should be given to teachers. Because when looking at the vaccination itself, it's stated clearly that it's not preventing the people from getting the virus, but it only mitigates the impacts of the COVID-19. So even if those people, the people that are vaccinated as well as the ones that are not vaccinated, they mix. It does not mean that the ones that are not vaccinated are the only ones that will be infected. So I think we should sit down and then design the circular, because seriously, it will be infringing, as our comrades have said, it will be infringing the teachers' rights.
Basil, let me give you the final word on this one.
Kathy, we support the first intention of the circular, which was to say to people who have been off on comorbidity concessions, you now need to return to school. Then, of course, to deal with the exceptions that are out there. And we believe that that is where the circular should have stopped, because the department has within its current regulations all the possible mechanisms to deal with people who need to go off on sick leave, who may need to be medically boarded, or whatever. They are there already. But to descend into a place where you eventually threaten people with dismissal is a tragedy. And the one thing we have skipped over is that schools are not made up of teachers alone. We have Public Service Act employees, your assistant staff, etc. They haven't been issued with a similar circular. So what makes them then different? Are teachers only going to be forced to comply and all the other people not? It doesn't make sense. We believe it's overreach. We believe it must be withdrawn and a more sensible circular replaced.
All right, let me thank you all for your time and your contributions to this conversation. Undoubtedly not the last that we've heard of on this particular issue.